There are three main types of verbs. Familiarity with verb types will help you understand when to use each type and when to avoid a verb type. The three types are: first, action verbs, which can be transitive or intransitive. Second are the modal or helping verbs. And third are the linking verbs. Let's take a closer look at each of these types of verbs and how they function in a sentence. When a person or thing is doing something, that's an action verb. Action verbs are the best ones to use in your writing to move your story forward and create tension. Action verbs can clarify articles and papers by indicating direct action. Action verbs are split into two categories: transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Transitive verb is always followed by a noun that receives the action, called the direct object. Let's have this sentence. I tapped my friend's shoulder. The verb tap is a transitive verb, and the noun that's receiving this action is my friend's shoulder, which is the direct object of the action verb tap. Sometimes an object can be indirect, such as when you're expressing to whom the action is being done. Let's consider this sentence. Brad gave Angelina a kiss on the cheek. The verb is gave, and the direct object was a kiss. To whom it happened was Angelina, the indirect object of the given sentence. Transitive verbs act on both direct and indirect objects. Someone or something always gets affected by this type of verb. When an action verb has no direct object, it's called an intransitive verb. An adverb or adverb phrase can follow intransitive verbs, but there will not be a direct object. Let's take the given example here. Kevin runs away quickly. The verb is runs, and the phrase away quickly tells us more about the verb, but there is no direct object. Therefore, runs is an intransitive verb. One easy way to tell the difference between a transitive and an intransitive verb is to ask the question, who or what is receiving the action from this verb? If you can name a noun that's on the receiving end, it's a transitive verb. If you cannot name a noun, whether direct or indirect object, then the verb is intransitive. A helping verb, also called an auxiliary verb, modifies the action in the main verb. Auxiliary verbs help readers to understand the main verb. They typically change the mood or tense of the main verb. Auxiliary verbs provide hints related to the possibility of something happening, as in would, should, can, could, or time, as in did, has, was, etc. When you add auxiliary verbs, you create verb phrases. Let's take this example. One is writing his biography. Is a helping verb, while writing is the main action verb in this particular sentence. The following verbs always function as auxiliary verbs: can, could, may, might, must, ought to, shall, should, will, or would. The following words can also serve as linking verbs: am, are, be, been, being, did, do, does, had, has, have, is, was, and were. Examples of be, do, have helping verbs in sentences. Bolt is running so fast. He had beaten me badly. Every swimmer thus freestyle. So the verbs is, had, and does are example of helping verbs. A linking verb connects the subject of your sentence to a noun or adjective that describes your subject. The noun or adjective is called the subject complement. Here are some examples. They are his new friends. My son is an athlete. I am the leader of the band. So the verbs are, is, and am are linking verbs. The most common linking verb can be found in the various forms of to be, like am, are, is, was, were, etc. These are also called stative verbs because they describe a state of being. The following verbs can be linking verbs and at other times can be action verbs: to appear, to continue, to feel, to grow, to look, to turn, to stay, to remain, to smell, to taste. Example of a difference between a linking verb and an action verb. The pasta smelled of. The linking verb smelled links pasta to the word of. I smelled the pasta before eating. In the second sentence, the action verb smelled actually refers to the action of smelling. Why are verbs so important? Well, as a writer, verbs can engage your reader, and choosing the right verbs can elicit emotional response from your readers. Whether you're writing academic essays or narrative fiction. Academic writing tends to stick to more formal writing styles than fiction writing, but you still want to keep your readers' interest and communicate your points clearly, isn't it? So whether you are a student writing essays for class or a professional researcher trying to publish a paper, using strong action verbs will improve your academic writing. So look for some weak verbs in your writing and try to replace them with precise, more dynamic verbs. Example of verb choice. We have this original sentence. His findings are in agreement with the conclusions I've presented in this paper. Now, can you think of a better verb that can be better than the use of are in agreement with? This is a much improved sentence. His findings support the conclusions I've presented in this paper. So instead of saying are in agreement with, we use the action verb support. Let's take this original sentence. A recent psychological study makes it clear that women have higher emotional quotient than men. Now we can still improve this. What could be verb or verbs that can be substituted for makes it clear? This is a much improved sentence. A recent psychological study demonstrates that women have higher emotional quotient than men. So instead of using the verb phrase makes it clear, now we prefer to use the verb demonstrates, which is more dynamic and precise. Let's take this original sentence. This outcome is an example of how a single night of sleep loss can have long-term impacts on the brain. Now, let us improve this one and try to think what verb or verb phrase can be used in lieu of is an example of. This is the improved sentence. This outcome illustrates how a single night of sleep loss can have long-term impacts on the brain. So we use the more dynamic, more precise verb illustrates than is an example of. That's all for now. Thank you for all who have watched this video. Thank you very much. Thank you for the love and support.